and were here for that last segment, it was blowing my mind. I so far have about 5 pages of notes, and I'm loving it. Brian Bruce, who is in our chat room, said there's a TV show called The Orville, and the last episode was about a robotic race which took over their planet and killed all biologics. So there's that to deal with this thought process. And I'm just fascinated by this stuff.
Yeah, it's it's all consuming, man. My voice is really going, but we're gonna fight through it, Kat.
Yes, we are. You're doing great.
Thank you. It's all consuming once you really start going down that rabbit hole, and then you start seeing it. I mean, there's a show called Travelers
Yes.
on Netflix, and it's about an AI who they call the director that sends people back in time, not physically, but he transplants their consciousness from the future into somebody else's body in the past. And then they're trying to impact the future. And that may sound wild and crazy. And here's why I think I'm crazy sometimes. And then I find out other people have had the experience. I've had a few dreams where it's real. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm there. I'm somewhere else. It's physical. I'm interacting with people. Sometimes I'm me, as if I'm in a different reality. Sometimes I'm not Denniss Nappi the second. I'm somebody else. I'm having these experiences, and I'm thinking I'm crazy. And I connected with a bunch of out-of-body travelers through the Monroe Institute, and I developed some friendships. And there's a woman named Shelley, who I call the astral projection avatar, and she regularly leaves her body and goes into a different reality or a different timeline as somebody else sometimes, and takes over their consciousness now, and is able to interact with that reality. And there's multiple people who have had these experiences, and you can make the argument, well, you're just having a very vivid dream, but no, it's physical, it's real, you're there. I've woken up confused because my relationships in this other state that I was in were different than my relationships here with people, and I forgot where I was, forget who you are, and then it's like this sudden download of readjusting back to reality, this reality, as you're remembering. So you're seeing elements of this playing out in the TV now and in Hollywood, and you have to ask yourself, what came first? Is because we're so powerful with our minds. And when you start looking at predictive programming, or if you go back and look at the double slit experiment, which shows that consciousness impacts quantum material, quantum particles, you have to wonder, are we being fed this fear-based stuff and shown this science fiction stuff because our consciousness is being used to manifest whatever those in control want? Or
Ooh, that's deep.
yeah, that scares me all the time, because then I
Because
have to
that's
say,
possible.
well, it is possible. And what scares me is that me being this truth seeker, thinking I'm bringing light to everybody and telling you about the scary things that are out there. Well, actually, maybe what I'm doing is planting those seeds, and now you're helping to manifest that negative thing that I'm trying to warn you about. It's a scary thought process to go down. Or but it also, at the same time, it's empowering. I did a show 2 weeks ago addressing this. If that's true, we can be aware of the scary stuff, but let's shift our focus and create that utopia that we want. I think we're shifting between realities, and I think we can do that.
I agree. Because if we can manifest one, we can manifest the other.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a conscious
Absolutely.
choice.
We just need to be aware of it.
Yes.
That's the challenge.
Well, it is, because when you start talking about these things, it can overwhelm you. And if you are not someone who is who is sensitive and immersed in ways of grounding yourself and aware of your power, I can see being terrified and just feeling that there's no way around it. And so then you're giving it power.
Yeah.
As opposed to educating yourself and understanding what the possibilities are, right?
Absolutely.
And kind of wrapping your mind around it.
And it takes time. This is a journey. I'm losing it now, Kat.
Yeah.
This is a journey. Give me a minute. How's that? Nope.
Well, it's better, but I didn't do my end of the job because I was letting you talk.
That's
Instead
okay.
of interceding. I didn't give you a chance to space it out.
That's all right. I can get going. It's a journey, and parts of that journey are difficult and they're depressing, but we need to work through those emotions. And that's where we have that spiritual growth and enlightenment. It's not all going to be easy, but have the courage to face that fear and to go through that thing that scares you and explore it. And I think we can find that light at the end of the tunnel.
I would agree with that. You know, Wendy in chat says awareness is always the challenge and the first step of resolution. You can't do anything if you're not aware.
Exactly. She's right.
So I think that you should not be beating yourself up or questioning yourself for bringing these topics to the fore.
They're important things to think about.
They are.
It consumes me.
Well,
It's consumed my voice tonight too, apparently. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, please don't apologize, because you know what? I appreciate you fighting through. I know how it is. My husband kind of wishes sometimes that I would have more of that happen. But I know he does because he has said so. No, I'm kidding. But you know, it's just sometimes I think things happen so that information can't get out. Nothing is a coincidence.
Yeah.
So maybe your code's not either. You never know.
This stuff tends to happen. I had some computer issues, some microphone issues. That ties into like my Archon research. I think there's forces out there, there's energies out there that try to wreak havoc and stop this from getting to where it needs to go. But I've been at this for a long time. It's going to take a little more than a sore throat and some computer issues to keep me quiet.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Archon.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
That's a long discussion.
Uh-oh, you only have 7 minutes.
I know. All right, let's see what I can do here.
Or just a definition. Just something, because I'm not familiar with Archons.
So Archon, I first heard about it through David Icke. If you start, David Icke talks about them. I think it was in his Remembering Who You Are tour. And Jay Wilder talks about them as well. But the archons are mentioned in the Gnostic texts. Archon translates to ruler. And basically what the Gnostic texts talk about is that when this universe was created, Sophia, who is an aeon. Now an aeon is interesting. An aeon is a consciousness, but an aeon also acts as a system of reality. So basically an aeon, in my interpretation, is an AI,
right,
that encompasses a universe. Now, the Gnostics wrote about this 2,000 years ago. And when Sophia, however you want to pronounce it, created this reality, there was a demiurge that came with it because she didn't create properly. She was supposed to create with a counterpart, and she did it herself. And with that came this demiurge, who we call the archons. His name, the first one, was Yaldabaoth. And the archons have been influencing humanity and mankind. In the Garden of Eden, they were basically keeping Adam and Eve prisoner. And when Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they realized their true power, and they realized who the archons were. So the archons then cast them out of the garden and sent them into a life of confusion, so they would no longer be preoccupied with, as the Gnostic texts say, matters of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit, I believe, is that electromagnetic
Right.
Wi-Fi energy, or chi, Reiki, prana. That's our connection to the universe. So these archons are that force that likes to manipulate. And as I go into in my book, there's a force that feeds off of negative human energy, which is why we live in a world of suffering. I mean, in my free ebook that's out there, I Am Human.
Yes.
When I was really trying to understand it, because this is a beautiful world and a loving God made us, and you stop and you take a look at nature. Nature's beautiful, but nature's horribly cruel. Animals eat one another alive. If you just watch one YouTube video on parasitism, and it's the worst suffering I've ever seen. So this world is designed. So in order for us to live, something has to die. And a lot of times that death produces a lot of suffering. And my drive came from when I watched my father die from cancer. There was a lot of paranormal stuff going on, and I picked up on a signal, on something else that drove my research, that drove this book that I'm writing now, that led me to a lot of what I'm talking about tonight. I gave a big overview, but there's, the infrastructure that we're being manipulated. We don't realize it. But the takeaway from that is we have real power. And if we can use that power, we can put a stop to it.
I agree. And I'm sorry about your dad too.
Thank you. Yeah, it was rough. I learned a lot, but I'd rather have my dad than the lessons.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I just don't really know what to say, because archons I know by another term. So I find it fascinating that they are what was perceived as God.
Yes. Yeah, Dabioth even said that. He said, I'm the only God. He thought he was the only God, and he couldn't perceive anything above him in his state of ignorance. He became the angry God of the Old Testament.
Well, so he just didn't know that he didn't just appear out of a void.
Right.
Interesting.
It's interesting. The Gnostics, this is why they were basically killed and their texts were burned, is because they were saying the Christian God, they were worshiping the wrong guy. It was actually basically the devil who's tricked everybody, saying, "You're worship me, I'm God, but I'm really the devil, making you think I'm good, but I'm really just manipulating all of you." Is kind of how the Gnostics thought and viewed it.
This is so interesting. I have got
Yeah.
to get down into this. My reading table is so full.
Yep.
And I was fascinated by your school, your stuff about the schools, because I do have a young friend that's involved in that. And we are out of time. Tell people, do you want me to tell people, since your voice is going, how to find you? You want to do it?
No, I can do it. They can get us at sixcentsmedia.net. They can find all our work there. The Seiker Podcast, there's links for everything there. Links to our t-shirt line as well. Just click on the store tab. And my free ebook, sixcentsmedia.net/I Am Human, all one word. And you'll get access to my free newsletter, my show, and that free ebook, I Am Human. We're not who we think we are.
I am just thrilled to have you here. And the other books can be found on Amazon too. Just look up Denniss Nappi II, and he is there. And that being said, we are out of time. I'm so appreciative of you being here and fighting through your voice.